dear respected Thai, and dear ancestors, blood ancestors, spiritual ancestors, cultural ancestors, dear Sangha. Today is the 7th of May and we are in Upper Hamlet. There are several retreats happening at the same time. In Lower Hamlet, they are welcoming guests to enjoy their monastery in spring. In New Hamlet, the well-being retreat. In Upper Hamlet, we have the Happy Farm retreat. So today, I was invited to give the Dharma talk. And a Dharma talk is made from many conditions coming together. And it has been stirring in my being. Many things have come together, including doubt. It is being expressed in my body with a heartbeat that suddenly has dropped. Interesting. Just now it was 110 and now it's 70. I think the ancestors have responded to me and been like, you can do this. We've got your back. So in the preparation of this Dharma talk, there was a lot of Irish people here. Yay. I think Nick, our happy farmer, with his Irish roots, inspired a lot of Irish friends to come here. And one of them, sitting all the way there in the back, asked me when she heard that I was a mentor and a teacher, what is the most difficult insight to transmit? Oh, good question. And I said, the most difficult insight to transmit for me is the insight of how identification happens and how we lose our freedom. How do we identify with things? So, I thought, let's make it simple for me. Make that the topic of this Dharma talk. So, in order to talk about this, we need to talk about the self. And the self has confused me a lot. Especially our teachings in Buddhism that somehow can give the feeling that the self is wrong and you need to get rid of it. And then although our teachers are saying things like, no, the self is just made of non-self elements. But somehow, how often do I not hear that we interpret it as there should be no self and that the self is wrong? How should I not be attached at all and get rid of it? Recognizable for anybody? The ego we then use. Oh, yeah, my ego. Need to get rid of my ego. So, what is it really, this self? And why is it a problem? Why did the Buddha spend so much time trying to explain the self? How does it arise? So, let's start. I brought with me here a book, Stepping into Freedom, which is the manual for the novices and the aspirants. And the first instruction there is the wake-up gatha. A gatha is a little practice poem that you recite when you are doing something in order to really be present for it and to give that action meaning. So the first thing in the morning, you're supposed to train yourself to recite this little gatha. Waking up this morning, I smile. 24 brand new hours are before me. I vow to live deeply in each moment and look at all beings with the eyes of compassion. Wow, beautiful. And that is not how I practice as an aspirant. For me, waking up this morning, I smile for a very long time. When I had to recite that gatha, I woke up in the morning and I got a feeling of like, I don't want this. I was just sleeping so well and now the day has to start. It's like, and now this teacher is saying that I need to smile. I don't want to smile at all. This is not a smiling moment, but let me just recite this gatha because it is expected of me. Yes, I was a little bit of a difficult student. Well, I vow to live fully and deeply in its moment. I felt like, yeah, that's something I do wish to do. But this smiling, I found that difficult. There was something I'm waking up with that I hadn't realized, that has been there for a long, long time. There's a little voice in me saying, I don't want this. This is too much. I feel stuck. And this little voice was part of my identity. This little voice was part of myself. I had fallen together with it. And so when I woke up in the morning, it was that little voice that stopped me from smiling. And it took me many years to realize that I have these kind of voices, these kind of ideas that I merge together with, that I protect because somehow they are serving me. Yet they are causing me suffering. I had to learn that they are part of me, but they are not the totality of me. So this insight, how can I see that my identity makes something real and then that the self starts to ignore and starts to not investigate, but just assumes it to be true, and then I'm caught. So things has changed for me. I can now wake up in the morning and that little voice might still be there. It's not a voice actually, it's more kind of a feeling. Something that goes, and I can say to it, hello, I know you're there. Yet, here we are. It's a new day. Waking up this morning, I smile. I smile to the totality of my being. I don't leave out the parts that are negative, that are suffering, that are difficult. I wake up to the totality of who I am. And I invite the totality of who I am to live deeply in this moment and together to enjoy. Now, also in this book, we have Master Grishan. Now, Master Grishan is a kind of firm teacher. And he says, our bodies were not born by themselves. Countless causes and conditions, including the genes of our ancestor, came together to bring them into existence. Our existence is as permanent as the morning dew, the tree at the edge of the river, the vine climbing alongside the well. Beings who are alive in the morning have to die by evening. Day and months pass quickly, and old age and death are inevitably. How can you sit around and let your life trickle away meaninglessly? And there's this one line that I really like, where it says, "Time flies like an arrow." Why would monastics spend so much time craving worldly things? Listen to the wise ones. By the time you wake up, your hair will be white. There's already quite some gray in my hair. I have wasted a lot of time. Yet I am doing my best. So I made a little drawing on the board. Somebody came up to me and said, like, "Dear brother, do you want us to erase what is on the board?" And I was like, no, don't erase. It looks like a little children's drawing. I hope you can see it in the back. Can you see it over there? I will just turn it a little bit for you. Yeah, now they cannot see over here. I know. So I will turn it. I will turn it over here to the others. Here you can see. Okay. This is like life. It is impossible to do it correct and please everybody. Anyway, our bodies were not born by themselves. I feel that I am this body. Yet, have I made my body? Have I made my body? I mean, I put food in it. But have I made it? If I look at my body and I go back in time, moment by moment by moment, I see that my body, moment by moment by moment by moment, at one moment got born. And at one moment was in the belly of my mother. If we bring that moment even back, there was the moment of conception, where the egg cell of my mother and the sperm of my father came together, and I continued on as a single cell that multiplied. Before that, I was part of the body of my father, and he continued on in the past. Interestingly, the little cell in the body of my mother existed already as it was in the form in the belly of her mother. That very cell was present when my mother was in the belly of my grandmother. And this continues on all the way back. We can see here my grandmother, my grandfather. He died before I was born. My grandmother, my mother, me, my father, and his mother and father. I can see that my body is a stream. Moment by moment, my body manifests, allowing my next body to manifest. Moment by moment by moment. If we go back all the way here in time, where complex multicellular life evolved, we have to go back 600 or 800 million years. And before that, where simple cells were formed, maybe 2 billion years. And even before that, where this one moment, where this single-celled organism met another single-celled organism of a mitochondria, and they merged together. And ever since, the mitochondria have been part of each other. The mitochondria as the powerhouse that we inherit from our mother. My mitochondria can be traced back 4.3 billions of years. My whole body is the continuation of 4.3 billion years. And that stream might end with me. But does the stream of life end with me? So when we look at our body like this, we can very clearly see that our body is not a separate object, but our body is a stream. Now, in the Buddhist tradition, we don't only say that we are our body. Our mind is made of 5 elements: our body, our feelings, our perceptions, our mental formation, and our consciousness. So those are mine, I thought. I can find those, they are only generated by me in this life. Now I'd like to take you back into the past. Just a few days ago, it was the 4th of May, and in the Netherlands, they have a memorial because 81 years ago, the Second World War ended. They are remembering by 2 minutes of silence everybody who has perished in conflict, in war. I remember my dear brother De Long, he was there with me in the Netherlands a few years ago when he was speaking about his ancestors and their experience in war in Vietnam. And I told him, brother, you need to stop. But he continued talking. I said, no, brother, you need to stop. And he continued talking until one moment, because it was 8 o'clock, I had to say, stop. And right at the moment, the church bells went and the community stood up to hold in silence for 2 minutes, to learn from the past, to honor the past, to honor those who went before us and who gave their lives for our liberty, or who were ruthlessly slaughtered in the Holocaust. And so at 2 days ago at 8 o'clock, when we were doing our sitting meditation, I sat in silence. It was also 81 years ago that the Netherlands went through the hunger winter. It was a very rough winter where it was very cold. And it didn't go well in the war for the Germans, and they took all of the food from the Netherlands to feed their army. Starvation was happening in the Netherlands. And it was especially bad in the cities. Food was not available. And my grandparents, they were invited to host a girl from Rotterdam. I asked my aunt if she could know and remember her name, but she didn't know anymore. So the story goes that this girl was picked up at the brug at Spijkenisse, at the bridge at Spijkenisse, by my grandfather, who already saw that this girl was so malnourished that she did not even have the energy to walk over that bridge. But she wasn't allowed to pick him up. He wasn't allowed to pick her up. So she had to walk over. They took her in her care. But even though that she was only a short time in the care of my grandparents, she died in their care. Too malnourished. My grandmother was devastated by it. Devastated that she couldn't give the care, that she couldn't give the food, that she couldn't, if only she would have brought the doctor more over. Afterwards, she fed my first aunt, who was already born, much more food. Or when my cousin would come by, and in the Netherlands, when you put something on the bread, you do it very thin because they are very cheap at that. It's something cultural. But no, my grandma, no, take a big piece. Take a big piece. Going to my own life, when my mom was in Plum Village, quite a few years ago. And I remember walking in the Leclerc, the supermarket, around the food. And I asked my mom, because suddenly I felt I've done something wrong and I cannot fix it. And I asked her, Mom, do you sometimes also have that feeling that you have done something wrong and that you cannot fix it? And she said to me, oh, my dear, I'm so sorry. You've got that from me. But I went to investigate. And last Sunday, about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when I was in the Netherlands giving a Dharma talk in Rotterdam, I asked this question to my sister who was in the audience. And I had not asked this question before. And I asked my sister, dear sister, do you recognize that feeling? That you've done something wrong and I cannot fix it? And she looked at me and she said, yes, I do have that. And then I asked my brother, who was sitting next to her. And he said, yes, I have that too. Then I asked my cousin. And she said, no, I don't have that. And I was like, oh man, my theory goes wrong. But then I realized, wait, her mom was already born in the Second World War. She was not yet conceived. Her mother was already conceived. So I checked my other cousin, the brother of my mother. Do you ever have that feeling? And he said, oh man, all the time. So in the belly of my grandmother, she was holding that pain. I've done something wrong, and I cannot fix that. And here I am carrying that. Is my suffering mine alone? So even my feelings and my suffering, I cannot say that they only existed and were only made in my life. I am also a continuation of the suffering of my ancestors. And especially those things that have caused harm, that was deep suffering, traumas. We are hardwired to learn from it and also to transmit it. So I am a stream as a continuation of my body, but I'm also a stream of continuation of the suffering of my ancestors. Because of my human nature and my perceptions, my feelings, they are made from my human experience. They are a continuation. Billions of years have come before me in order for me to have this kind of experience here in the present moment. Yet we have this strange self that proclaims, I am separate, I am permanent, I am an object. So another drawing. It looks a little bit like a setting sun. I've practiced this. This is the self. We have the ultimate reality, store consciousness, the stream of life. And somehow the self grasps back onto store consciousness, creating the illusion of an object that we call the self. So as I woke up this morning and I spent so much time preparing the Dharma talk, and yet I wasn't able to finish all of my notes and create perfect storyline in order to present. Yet I knew I need sleep. So I took my time to take care of myself. You're very rich here that we have a sauna, so I used the sauna, put it at a low degree so I could do some total relaxation. So I could calm myself down to prepare for this moment. Yet when I was in bed, sleep did not really come, but I was calm. And in the morning when I woke up, I felt calm. And I went out to make myself a cup of tea. And in the calmness, and in the morning, I heard the birds. I saw the dew. And I stood in front of a leaf. It was so green, so beautifully green. And as I was looking at the leaf, I could feel and experience the life of that leaf. It wasn't a grasping out. It wasn't a receiving. It was a shared experience in that moment. Touching the life of that leaf. I think because of my Western conditioning, I believed for a very long time that my conscious experience of this moment can only be generated by my body. My body as a separate object is capable of generating this experience of consciousness. I started to doubt that. I started to ask myself, is that really true? That my conscious experience in this moment is only generated by me, by my body? Thai said that consciousness is a property of both time and space. They manifest together. So my consciousness and the consciousness of that leaf, can it be possible that my consciousness is actually shared with all the other consciousnesses that are around me? And that there is a possibility for me to connect and to have a shared experience. Before we sit down in meditation, we bow to the Buddha. The one who bows and the one who is bowed to are both by nature empty. Therefore, the communication between them is inexpressibly perfect. Both empty of a separate existence. It brings me down into more kind of a sinking experience, where I start to experience more that my true nature is that of a stream of life. And that I might emerge from it, but that somehow I can connect to the experience and the consciousness of the tree. And somehow, as I was preparing and asking also my ancestors to help me, it didn't want to go back into like, okay, go from here to here to here. It kept presenting itself, myself, with the wonders of life. So when I walked out just before the Dharma talk, I enjoyed the sound of the birds, and I asked the sound team, please turn on my mic. And I wondered, did you hear the sound of the birds? No, you did not. Well, I was enjoying the experience of thinking that you might hear the sound of the birds through my mic. To offer you that shared experience. On this morning, it was so incredibly beautiful in the contrast of the rain that has been there for so many days. The sun was such a beautiful morning. I enjoyed so much in that contrast. So the self grasps back to what we call the five aggregates: body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness, and makes that into a separate object. So the stream of life is available to us in the present moment. Thai would also call this the kingdom of God. That in the present moment, instead of reaching out, we can rest in God. It was an experience that I had in Israel, where I sat at the Sea of Galilee, where Jesus used to teach. Actually, he often sat in a boat so that the people on the shore could listen to him, according to the story. And I sat there on my birthday. A voice had prompted me, go sit at the lake. And as I sat at the lake and I calmed my mind, I sort of felt there is this spiritual energy available in the present moment that is very subtle. If I grasp it with my attention, I destroy it. So I had to be so subtle and careful to be open to receive, to be open to dwell. And as I experienced, that spiritual energy started to grow. It became fuller and fuller. It was such a beautiful gift on my birthday. And I went back to my hut and I opened the Gospels. I wanted to look, what is the Gospels of Thomas? And I found this one Gospel that said, the kingdom of God is like a mustard seed. That is the smallest of all seeds. But if you place it in fertile soil, it becomes a great plant and offers a refuge for the birds of heaven. And a big smile came on my face because I was like, yes, 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 that was what I was just experiencing. It's only later that I also found out that Jesus offered that teaching right there in a boat on the shore at the Sea of Galilee. It is one of the teachings that comes in many Gospels, which is attributed to that Jesus most probably has really said that. So the kingdom of God is available to us. A spiritual energy is available to us. Now let's enjoy a sound of the bell. So manas is like a shell. It grasps back on itself, creating an object that seems to have an inside and an outside. This shell made from the ocean and the sea creates a shell of protection. And not only does it grasp back on and creates this object, it also takes from the stream of life what are seeds, like a seed of I've done something wrong and I cannot fix it, and turns that into a mental formation, a sort of grasped mental formation. So there are aspects of manas, which is the consciousness that grasps back. So this grasping back creates like an object of mind or manas, that from that arises mind consciousness. And that has some characteristics, like that it chases after pleasure and doesn't see the danger of it. It avoids pain and it doesn't see the value of pain. And it doesn't seem to be able to moderate. Now, as I looked into this, I was wondering, kind of like, why does the self do this? And especially, why does it do it with things that are suffering to me? So there's a few things that happen in my life. So the I have done something wrong is one that can come up. Another one that often can come up for me is I don't matter. Or I am not good enough. Anybody recognize these? The I am not good enough, I think, in our Western world maybe has also very much to do about sin and our Christian legacy. The I don't matter, I can also trace back to my father, where he was told when his brother was sick, Ronnie, please be quiet, go and play. He experienced that as a I don't matter. Or when my grandfather got a lung infection, where my great-grandfather didn't teach him, didn't take care of him, didn't brought him to the hospital, where he had to sleep in the loft. Yeah, you could go to school, but you first need to milk all of the cows. He wasn't taken care of. That seed I also carry within myself. And somehow Manas identifies with these things. And so what I realized is it identifies with these things because it is somehow related to my survival. If I am good enough, then people will take care of me. Then I will be in connection. Then I will be safe. If I matter, if I'm interesting, if I give a good Dharma talk, then I have a right to belong in my group. I can feel good about myself. I remember the first time I went to Plum village, that I saw this seed of I'm not good enough. And how it made so clear to me how that seed of I am not good enough was responsible for me putting so much effort in my work and wanting to be the first and the best. Because if I'm better than somebody else, then at least I might be good enough. And I am safe. So these are deeply connected to fear, to belonging to my tribe. Because not only does the self reaches back, creates an object of self, it also reaches back and creates an object of a group of people. My group and the others. And this othering has caused so many wars. This othering, root of the Holocaust. In the time of the savannah, maybe it was a way to make sure that the survival of the group was okay. But yet, as we are living now in a world of interconnection, a global world, we're still walking around with a very outdated nervous system. They somehow seems to keep on fearing things about myself that are actually not true. And at the same time, completely is incapable of fearing the things that we should actually fear. We are so bad at statistics and learning from statistics. We're so afraid of the terrorist, but we happily step into our car. The likelihood to be killed by a terrorist is so many times smaller than cars, sugar, alcohol, smoking, climate change, pollution, heart disease, internet use. These devices that numb, that overwire, overstimulate our supersensitive nervous systems, that crave attention, that crave information in order to feel safe. We had very little information in the savannah. And yet now, constant information. It is overstimulating our nervous system. And in that overstimulating, they made one of the worst inventions ever, short form video. Very pleasant, numbing, an off switch, yet at the background, depleting my attention, depleting my capacity to touch the moment, depleting my ability to touch the wonders of life. We're paying with our lifeblood. To break that habit, we have to experience that our life and our enjoyment of life is a currency that we cannot waste. Yet these devices, luckily there's more and more digital devices that help us to not fall into that trap. I saw the light phone, somebody had it over here, so annoying to use. Good. Make it annoying so you don't use it. I took my SIM card out of my telephone, so I have to specifically take effort in order to connect. And now the battery is blowing up on my phone somehow. My phone is letting me know it's time to die. Freedom. I can replace it with something else. Or should I? I wish if I could just not have a phone, just not be reachable. To that moment where in the day of mindfulness you have to find each other in order to give information over, to be always available. I think we're not wired for this. So, I have these core seeds that are connected to fear. They are letting me know. My ancestors are letting me know. My previous me and my previous life experiences are letting me know there is an experience that might happen that is not conducive for your continuation, for your survival. And so mana spends a lot of energy trying to protect. And we get so identified with it that we completely merge with these kind of emotions. Have any of you ever experienced being angry and then saying, I am angry? I am the totality of my experience, which is anger. And actually in Gaelic, you have a very beautiful saying about sadness. Can you repeat in Gaelic? What was the... Any, in Gaelic, they say any emotion is upon you as a blanket. It's much more close to the truth than I am angry, I am sad. It is just a part of me, not the totality of me. So how to recognize this? This is such an important insight. So my experience in the present moment of my anger, I can recognize through the lens of the 5 skandhas, is that it has a body aspect. Maybe a little bit here in the chest. It has a feeling aspect of not really pleasant. It has a mental formation aspect of an experience of the anger and what it is angry about. And it has a consciousness aspect. It is a lived experience that, just like the leaf, if I am silent enough, I can feel how it feels for the anger to feel like that. And in the preparation of this talk, I looked at a Dharma talk by Thai from the 10th of June in 2014, where Thai was saying, when you've experienced a trauma or a wound in the past, that experience is still there available to you. You can still connect to that inner child. You can say it was a little wave in the past, and moment by moment, this is not you, but that little experience is still part of you. And you can connect to it back again as a lived experience. And you can let it know where it truly is. You can sing a song to it. And then he asked, Dear Sangha, please, if we have composers, can you sing a song about this? And Evelien Beumkes, based on that Dharma talk, wrote this song that I will sing to you. And I found it quite interesting that as I came to that talk, when I looked up manas, and this was one of the first hits on Living Gems, our new digital archive, that it was that same Evelien Beumkes who had stored all of these old Dharma talks from Thai in the 90s. And she asked Plum Village, would you like to have them back? And we found Jonas, who started to digitize them, and bit by bit, we started to create a whole archive that is now living gems. So things continue. And she wrote this song that Thai asked us to sing to our suffering. Hello, hello, something in me. I am aware that you are in there, and you sure have got good reason to be. Hello, hello, something in me. I am aware that you are in there, and I'm going to keep you company. And I'm going to keep you company. And I'm going to keep, and I'm going to keep, and I'm going to keep you company. But what I invited us to do is connect to the lived experience of that piece of suffering, that alive experience of suffering, and give it a new experience in the present moment to help it touch the stream of life, to let it smell the bird, smell the flowers and hear the birds, and to see life manifesting. Because what the self does is it separates, and it keeps it separate. And it keeps holding on to the fear, thinking that I am still not good enough. But it refuses to actually check in reality what is really happening. So we need our mind, we need our love in order to connect. Help it connect to the present moment. So I actually think this song needs a third verse to help it touch the wonders of life, to help it touch where it is. So it is a lived experience in my body. But maybe the self as well has fragmented my own body. You can make a drawing of your body and you can fill in with your awareness what parts of the body are easy to connect to with a light color, and the parts of the body that are difficult to connect to, or maybe the parts where they are sort of disconnected. It's interesting to see that although we are aware of our body, we might not be aware of the totality of our body, and maybe parts of our body we ignore. And very often, the suffering that might be living in the chest or the belly, the lived experience of my ancestors. It's also very important to know where my body is in space. When I feel my body, I can sort of feel where is the wall behind me. Where is my body in relationship to the bodies in the room? Where is my body in relationship to this whole room, this space? When I get a real good sense of where I am in space, I'm really deeply connecting to the present moment. Then I can connect all of my limbs in that space as well, via my proprioception, via my interoception. Complicated words for saying where is your sensations of your body and touch in space, where is the movement of your body, what is the position of your body in space, proprioception, and interoception, what is the lived experience in the internal of my body. Different parts of the brain are responsible for that. When I allow myself to be truly in touch with the present moment, and I bring those experiences in contact with where I am, I can give them a new story. Because this story of I don't matter, it's completely irrelevant when I am with the leaf, when I'm with the dew, when I'm with nature. In that moment, there is only an experience, an enjoyable experience. But my suffering has the tendency to ignore, to only grasp back on its own story, trying to solve it, trying to keep it separate. So to solve our suffering, we need to help it give a new experience. So I think it's very important that we learn to recognize what are these core identity stories and seeds that we carry within ourselves. In order to find them, there's several ways to do that. What is the type of suffering that keeps on coming back over and over and over again? What are the type of thoughts that are happening over and over and over again? And categorize them. I had thoughts of retaliation. If this person is going to say this, then I'm going to say that. But then if they're going to say this, then I'm going to say that, and then I got them. I allow that story to be there, and I bring it back to, okay, and what is now the lived experience below it? Can I feel it in my body? Can I say hello to that? Has this happened before in my life? And I specifically, with that one, happens mostly with my elder brothers and sisters who seem to have a power over me. And somehow seems to be related to when I was sitting at the dining hall table with my family and they were very intense and I just could not get a word out because they were too quick. Used to be the quietest in the house, which the Sangha does not recognize anymore. I had to adapt in order for myself to be heard. The survival strategy. But I already bring that seeds to my elders, already thinking you're going to dominate me. And I see other people through that lens of the experience of the past, and I cannot see the person who is right there in front of me. Sometimes I have to tell people, I am not your father. So, has this experience happened before? What kind of habits keep on happening all the time? For example, if you're a male and attracted to females, and you're a celibate monk, why is it that you are giving consultations all the time to the most pretty women? You have to ask yourself that question. Oh, somebody is moving over there. No, no, not me, not me. What is alive in there? What is the feeling that comes up in that moment? Because what the self also does is in that separation where we are separated from our mothers, might externalize care as only being capable of coming from a female figure. I won't be taken care of. See that I carry within myself, even though my brothers are taking care of me. I have to explicitly make it aware to myself that I am already being taken care of. And so I saw that one of the aspirants, when I shared this with, he immediately took my cup and he washed it up. And I recognized, this is a moment of care by a male figure. I need to let that story be informed with contradictory evidence. So I am not victim of these kind of seeds, these kind of strategies. I can feel these kind of experiences and ask myself, how old are they? Give them a year. So the feeling of not feeling cared for might feel like it is as young as a baby. And so I know the lived felt sense experience, a beautiful term by Eugene Gentlin, the felt sense experience of a body with feelings and a meaning and a lived experience with consciousness. That experience that I am carrying within myself might feel at a certain age. And so I can reach out to it as if it is that age. If it is a baby, I don't go debating with it. If it's a baby, I hold it like this. I communicate with it in the language that it understands. Hello, something in me. So as I was preparing for this talk, I also looked more deeply into the Holocaust. I've been invited to go to Ukraine, and we will probably visit Auschwitz when we are there. And I also found out that 140,000 Jews were living in the Netherlands in the time of the Second World War, and of them, 75% lost their lives. 110,000. 75% is a large part. And why in the Netherlands? 75%. In Denmark, only 1% or something. So when I looked into the history of being Dutch and the Netherlands, I can go back to 1100, 1200, where the Dutch were reclaim the land. Can I get another microphone? Yeah. Where the Dutch were reclaiming the land by making polders and dikes. And they, so as they were reclaiming the land, they had to work together. And they created a kind of culture of cooperation, and where they needed to really say, kind of like, if you say A, then you do A. Because you cannot leave that dike unmanned and then all of our land will be flooded. They had to work and cooperate very closely together. Now, this same kind of cooperation and spirit allowed the Dutch to defeat the Spanish when they, during the Reformation, when they could use this same strategy to flood the land so that the Spanish could come up. That same kind of cooperation allowed them to have the VOC and became a world power of trade and commerce. Yet that same kind of cooperation and management allowed the Nazi regime to be incredibly efficient in using our registers to round up all the Jews. So I read books from Edith Eger, The Choice, and Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, where they describe their experiences in the camps. And what helped them to survive. When a human being is stripped of everything, and Viktor Frankl stayed there in the concentration camps for a long time. He, at one moment, found the love for his wife. And he could connect to that love. And he realized in that moment that he could love his wife regardless of any circumstances, regardless even whether she was still alive. This love, this capacity to love, nobody could ever take from him. Even in those circumstances, they were able to have joy when they were in the train and they saw, oh no, are we going back to Auschwitz or are we going somewhere else? And they noticed the bridge that would take them to Auschwitz and they were not going over that bridge. The joy that they had in that train for going to a camp without a chimney. So even in the most difficult moments, joy is possible. But he was a psychotherapist, psychiatrist, and he had a theory about meaning. And his manuscript was taken from him. And at one moment, when despair overwhelmed him, he realized, but wait, I can take this moment and investigate. I can investigate the human mind. I can recreate my manuscript. And he found back a purpose. That regardless of whatever he will happen, that his choice, his freedom, is to do with life in that moment what he can. That his freedom was a response to the moment. A response of love, a response of giving meaning. He was able to touch nature and the beauty of it, the sunsets. It is very often when we are deep in trauma that we refuse the joys of life because we are too preoccupied with the story that the self is telling us. And we have to train ourselves to connect, especially in the most difficult situations, to the stream of life. That is our refuge, our ultimate refuge. Edith Eger also saw the same thing when her sister was shaved. And her sister was so proud of her beauty. She was the most beautiful in the house, while Edith was said that you were the most ugly one. As her identity had been stripped of her when she was shaved, her sister asked Edith, "How do I look?" She was maybe asking, "I've lost my beauty. What is left of me? I don't have an identity anymore." And at that moment, she recognized that there's a choice, because her sister looked like a mangy dog. But to tell her that truth would be too painful. But then she looked into her eyes, into the fierce blue of her eyes, and she saw another truth. And she said, "Your eyes, they are so beautiful. I didn't see that before with all of that hair." There's also when she was asked to dance in front of Mengele, the angel of death, that she realized how pitiful is he. He has to live with the consequences of his actions. And she could answer with love in herself. So I was very touched by these kind of stories. And at the same time, I also recognized that there are people of German ancestry here. We are a continuation of our ancestors. And we have a choice. What to do with this life. How to meet this moment. What do we cultivate? What do we continue? We will die, but our actions will continue in the sea of life. Our true self is the continuation of our actions, of body, speech, and mind. So we have a choice how to continue, what to bring forth, what to take care of in ourselves. We have a choice to investigate, to keep seeing what is our original nature, to not be caught in ignorance of the permanence of things and of our experiences and our emotions, to keep looking. What do I reach for? What do I avoid? What is below? We have a choice of sovereignty, of agency in every moment to truly come back to ourselves, to sink into the moment, to touch our original nature. Thank you.